on the computer, and it's over to you, my friend. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Purdy. Thank you for asking me to share. It's always a privilege to share to my family, my Cocaine Anonymous family. Hi, everyone. My name's Young. I'm a very, very grateful recovered drug addict today. Beyond grateful to be alive. And when I used to hear people saying that, I used to think, what have you got to be grateful for? Because I certainly wasn't grateful when I rolled into the rooms of Cocaine Anonymous, broken, scared, just terrified I would never get this program. What can you be grateful for? I used to think. I understand what they mean today. What I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for that pain, for that misery, because that was the keys to the kingdom. That was the keys that was going to get me on a completely different path of life, rocketing me into a better life than I'd ever known. And I used to be a hopeless junkie, a hopeless drug addict. I could not stay sober, could not stay clean on my own power for longer than that. The longest was 8 months. The longest was 8 months. And then someone taught me what this program was about, because I'd been in and out of the rooms for 10 years, not working one single step. How insane is that? Welcome to any newcomers. I'm a great expert in how not to do this program. So please, maybe you can learn off my mistakes. Because it was told to me, if you're sat in a 12-step room and not launching yourself like your life depends on it into these 12 steps, absolute insanity. How do you think you're going to change, Young? It was said to me. And then I learned that this whole thing was about connecting to this power that I'll refer to as God, but you can call what you want. God, peace, love, light. If we look at 6 of those 12 steps, they all mention the word God in one way or another. This is what it was all about. And I'd missed it for years. Maybe I was going to the wrong meetings. Maybe I just wasn't hearing. Maybe I just wasn't ready. Maybe I just wasn't broken enough. Because it was only when heroin, alcohol, crack, pills, blah, 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 all the drugs beat me into a state of reasonableness, was I willing to take direction and say, do you know what? I just don't know. I don't know what to do. I've exhausted every other avenue. I'm sick and tired of being in pain when I'm sober, when I'm clean, because that was my problem. I'd go into a detox unit, a hospital, I'd take the drugs out of me, and I'd still feel really angry. I'd still live in self-pity city. I'd still blame you, and you for how I felt. I couldn't seem to wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world. It just wasn't coming to me, because my problem was not drugs or alcohol. That was my solution to life itself. That was filling this spiritual void within my soul. When I took a hit, I felt okay. When I had a hit of rock, whatever the substance, like it says in the beautiful reading of Who is a CA Member, substance is not important. How much you use, not important. Do I qualify for this spiritual program? Do I qualify as being a drug addict? What does that even mean? I needed to understand that. It means that I take drugs out of me, and at some time my head always twists. I'm having a great day. My head says, it'll be different this time. Or maybe it just doesn't say anything at all. In that moment, I'm absolutely insane. I'm unable to bring to mind with sufficient force what happened last time I used, or the time before. It fails to remember that I promised everyone that I love I'm never going to do it again, and I meant it with all my heart and all my soul. What I understood when I came in this time, and I came in, God, peace, love, light, something removed this obsession from me on the 24th of December, 2018. And from that moment, I've never thought about using since that moment. That's insane. From this course of vigorous action, because, and I often share this to my guys, if I understand step 1 in its entirety, if you're new in and you understand the hopelessness of your condition, then you're all in. Because I know there's nowhere else to go. I know my step 1 tells me I will drink again, I will use again if I rely on my own power, on my own mind, on my own intelligence, and I'm putting that in inverted commas. My mind fails me. I cannot rely on it to protect me. My protection, or the thing that removes this problem from me, must, it says in the big book, must come from a power greater than myself. I was just on a meeting sharing on step 2. And look, I'm only giving my experience. I never tell anyone what to do. I can direct people through this beautiful big book, tell my experience, but I'm never going to tell anyone what to do. My sponsor didn't. He just said, look, Young, I can see you're really thirsty. I can see you dying. And he said to me, you will die. You will die. But I've got a solution. We've got a solution. Cocaine Anonymous has a solution. If you want it, you can grab it. If you don't, crack on. He didn't say, phone me every day, do this, do this. He just said, look, do you want it? Because it tells me in the big book, and my experience tells me, to get well, the essentials, indispensable, it says in the big book. Willingness, honesty, open-mindedness. And I say to my guys in my rehab, if you haven't got willingness, there's the door. You might as well walk out of it right now. How did I get willingness? Through my desperation, through me beaten to a pulp time and time again, getting back in the ring, being hit again, even after I swear I'm never doing it again. That desperation gave me willingness in abundance. And through living, not working, you know, I did work through the steps, but now I live it as a way of life. I have willingness in abundance, the same as I had on day one. Because to any newcomers, I remember quite a few people in the rooms in my early days, they would say to me, you're just on a pink fluffy cloud. Well, I'm still on it, mate, years later. Why would you say that to a newcomer? Why would you say that? I'd encourage them. Great. Keep on doing what you're doing. Now, if you're not on a pink fluffy cloud, maybe that's your experience and you're 10 years in and you're feeling pain. Well, maybe that doesn't have to be my experience. Because we all go through this in a different way. What I mean by that is we go through the 12 steps in the beautiful big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, but this is a spiritual program, not an academic one. We feel it in a different way. And I believe this is through working with many, many people, taking them through the book. Like anything, I get what I put in. The more I launch myself into this, the less sort of pain I feel. And it seems to get better and better as the months go by, as the years go by. It keeps on moving. It keeps on getting better. But like I say, to any newcomers that ain't feeling like this, I wasn't when I came into these rooms. I was lost. I was afraid. I just was so scared that I wouldn't get this stuff. But like my sponsor said, you just haven't been working a program, Young. You've just been going to meetings. Meetings are not going to keep you clean and sober permanently, like Bill Wilson talks about in the big book, in the foreword to the second edition. I don't think we shout about that enough. We can have permanent recovery as long as I do certain things and keep in a fit spiritual condition. So I'm not going to even talk about my using. I used many, many substances for many, many decades, and it led me into very dark places. And thank you so much, those of you who have your camera on. It helps so much with connection to see your beautiful face. And I need connection because I was very disconnected. And when I was in the madness, even in early recovery, I was hiding in the shadows. I don't want to hide today. I know this stuff is all about connection. I need to be connected to you so then I can connect to God. And if I'm not connected to God, I'm not connected to you. Meaning, if I'm not connected to my fellows and not connected to this power, I suddenly get into my old way of being and feeling and seeing. I start being really judgmental, really critical. I think the speaker's a load of rubbish, blah, blah, blah. All those things, they cause me pain. They do not feed my soul. So thank you, those of you who have your cameras on. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to take you to the end of my using and how it looked. I'd lost everything many times over. The end of my using, I was in a tiny flat. There's better scenes in Train Spotting, you know. I had no possessions. I was stripped of everything. I didn't have a TV. I had a broken phone that I was watching telly on. My days consisted of waking up, being surrounded by those four horsemen: terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. I wanted to kill myself every day for that last year and a half out there. That's not an exaggeration to say that. Something saved me from doing that. I know what that something is today. But I understand today that was the gift I was given. That was the gift of desperation. And it never feels like a gift. Yeah, I feel horrible. I'm desperate. Oh, but it's only then when I have this willingness to launch myself in, to become a seeker, to find a man who's going to guide me and show me what the solution is. And how I found my sponsor, anyone who hasn't got a sponsor. Like it says in the big book, it says some of these guys, these recovered members, their whole deportment shouts they're a man or a woman with an answer. The way they walk, the way they talk, the way they hold themselves. To me, they're not just recovered from drugs and alcohol. They're recovered from being really miserable, really angry, struggling with life, even when life comes at them. They just seem whole. And thinking about my step 2 share just now, it says I need to be restored to a place of sanity. So that's implying I'm insane. And I am when it comes to picking up the first one. And the word sanity comes from the Latin word sanitas, meaning whole. I need to be made whole. I've been feeling this empty void in my soul, and I've been filling it with whatever substances I've been using. Women, gambling, shopping. You know, why do you think we have over 250 12-step fellowships? Because these guys are not using drugs and alcohol, but they're using something to fill this empty void inside their soul. And each one of those fellowships has exactly the same 12 steps. Why? Why do we even do the 12 steps? Because it gets me a spiritual awakening. And for those new in, it just means I have a change in my vision. I have a shift in my soul. My attitude is different. My behavior, my reaction to life. I've had this personality change, which has removed the problem. Bring about that by myself. All starts once again with willingness. Willingness to do some things I don't understand. Willingness to get over my prejudice of the word God. Oh, God, oh. My sponsor told me, just get over yourself. Do you want to live? Do you want to die? Thank God this man said to me, Young, I care more about you than I do hurting your feelings. And he was a very loving man, and he is a very loving man, very gentle. But he was very straight up with me. And thank God, because I've been into loads of treatment centres, loads of therapy, loads of detoxes, loads of hospitals. And sometimes they'd go, oh, poor you. It's your childhood, isn't it? You've had a really bad life. Because I used to get beat really badly as a kid. And for years and years, I used that as an excuse. That's why I'm a drug addict. You'd be a drug addict like me. My brother wasn't. The same happened to him. What it did, it created someone who was a very scared little child inside. Very resentful, very angry, scared of rejection. All these things. Drugs was the perfect answer to that. But what I know today is what I was saying before in the meeting. You know, it talks about on page 55. It says, deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God, or the idea of good. And I said this just now. It's only when I have nowhere else to go when I reach out for God. When I had that knife to my throat in New York over a drug deal gone bad. God, please help me. It's only when I've been smashed to smithereens off drugs and alcohol. Please help me. I've got nowhere else to go. I'd never prayed before I came into this program, but I just did it because you lot told me. This is what you do. The guys that were well. Because it's Mike D, I think, he talks about there's a club within the club. Because there's plenty of people in the rooms not doing the do, but there's the guys in it, and they seem the ones that I want to follow today, and I do follow. Because we can be recovered, of course, it tells me in the big book, but I can become unrecovered. I can have a spiritual awakening, but I can go to sleep very quickly. So what I do today is I don't take my foot off the gas. I just live this as a way of life. I understand it's not an academic exercise because any fool can learn the book. Anyone can quote the book and sound really clever on a meeting. How am I living? How am I showing up? Am I being kind, gentle, loving, patient, tolerant? And when I'm not, do I spot it in myself? Because of course I can be unkind, selfish, dishonest, all those things because I'm a normal, flawed human being. Lots of flaws. Thank God for my flaws, because that's how I grow through those. Thank God for pain in life. That's how I grow. That's how I lean more into this power that I call God. And it all started from a tiny, tiny mustard seed of hope that came from you guys in Cocaine Anonymous and another fellowship that I go to. I could see the light in some of your eyes and I wanted what you had. And I said, what do I need to do? And I launched myself in because I understood my step one. I understood I was a ticking time bomb, and at some time I would pick up, and I desperately didn't want to. And I was seeing the guys like me in and out of the rooms, in and out, in and out. You don't have to be one of those people, because it's a painful place to be, because I've lived it. I've lived that, going in the rooms and then getting a few months and picking up. It was just my resistance to this beautiful program. And I heard someone on it before saying, oh, something about step 4. None of these steps are difficult. There's a lot of kind of nonsense or scare, things I used to hear in the rooms. People say, oh, step 4, oh, it's a relapse step. No, it's not. It's a step of freedom. I start opening the door and the sunlight comes in when I do my step 4. I start to see all these defects of character, and I understand they're my difficulties. They're the things that keep me blocked off from the sunlight of the spirit. Step 4 and 5, step of freedom. Absolutely. Because I only really start getting into the work in step 4. Step 1 and 2, there's no instructions how to do them, is there? There's no instructions how I admit something. I either admit something or I don't. I either understand that I'm going to pick up, or I'm sort of like, no, I probably won't if I do enough yoga, go to the gym, get a new girlfriend. From my past experience, that's how I get step 1. From a very powerful step 1 experience, mine being my kids crying, please, daddy, don't use again. And I'm saying, okay, I promise. And then I use, not because I'm a bad parent, not because I don't love them, because it's got more power over me, or had more power over me than even the love of my children. And if that's the case, which it is, I'm recovered, I'm going to need a bigger power. But I don't need to worry about it. In step 2, all it says, all I need is a willingness. A willingness. That's all I need in step 2. A willingness to think, okay, maybe this will work for me. I'm going to go and find my own truth. I don't have to work out what this power is. I'm never going to work that out. It'd be crazy for me to try and explain this divine power that is beyond my human understanding. I had to get over that word God. It's just a word, because it was blocking me. It was blocking me, my old prejudice, my old ideas. And it says in the big book, until I could put my old ideas aside, the result was nil, absolutely. What I did know for certain is that my old ideas had led me into hell. My old ideas had led me into treatment center after treatment center. My old ideas had led me here, not on the wings of success, but on the wings of being absolutely broken. But like I said at the beginning, that was my admission into something really beautiful and really wonderful. Spiritual program of action, spiritual program of daily action, not an academic exercise, not I've done the 12 steps. No, I've been through them, and now I'm going to live them as a way of life. Now I'm going to keep on seeking teachers. I'm going to keep on growing. I'm going to wake up every morning and say, do you know what? I know that I don't know. Because this is like an ego deflation program, because what I learned in steps 4 to 9, that is my ego that is the problem. It's my ego that separates me from you. It's my ego that tells me, do you know what? I've got this. Been a few months in now. I'm all right. And it's what often happens for those that take their foot off the gas, like me back in the day. How many people do you know that you've seen come in really enthusiastic at first, a few months in, they get a new partner, get some money, get something, and then you don't see them again. And then you hear where they're at. But it doesn't have to be like that for anyone on this meeting. So my sponsor said to me, he said, Young, and he's 34 years in, 34 years, and he's still on fire, because he still sponsors loads of people. He still does loads of service. He has a deep prayer and meditation life. He still starts every day saying, do you know what? I don't know. Right, God, what have you got for me today? Let's have it. He's a man of great faith. And I forgot what I was going to say then. Doesn't matter. What he said to me at the beginning, he said, Young, if you take my hand, I can show you the way out of hell, but also I can show you how you never have to go in hell again. You never have to go there again. Because I didn't want to be one of these people that was in and out anymore, because I knew I'd probably die. And it was just so painful. And I couldn't seem to be okay just being okay. So we went through the steps. That's what he said to me. He said, Young, the steps are designed by the guys who designed them. If we do that, you know, we read about the history, which I do because I'm a right geek today. I've gone from crack addict, heroin addict to someone who really loves the history of the 12 steps because it's life-saving. And I feel so passionate about this. You know, I remember my sponsor said to me, he said, well, I said to him, I said, Grant, when am I going to know if I've had a spiritual awakening? He said, Young, you'll know because you want to shout about it in the rooms of Cocaine Anonymous to the newcomer. You want to tell them how something has shifted in your soul. You want to tell them how broken you were and how you're not today. And you'll tell them how that occurred in you. And I remember that the first time I thought I had a spiritual awakening, I was in this treatment centre that I work in today in Scarborough. And we go on a Sunday walk. And we go up these beautiful cliffs and you look over the ocean and we're up there and the sun is out and it's such a beautiful day. It's gleaming, you know, the water is glistening, there's birds and I'm stood there and I can feel the wind on my face. And I'm thinking, here we go, it's happening. I'm having a spiritual awakening. And I'm really having a moment. And the geezer next to me goes, be nice to smoke crack here, wouldn't it? Ruined it for me. But I did have a spiritual awakening and I continue to become awakened because it's not a one-time deal, the spiritual awakening. The shift just keeps on happening. Like I said, there's no end to this spiritual life. There's no end to this 12-step program. It just keeps on giving the more I keep on giving. Because it's all a program of being selfless and helpful and useful. And I can only be like that when I get out of this. You know, what's that expression? You know, oh, I love getting out of my head. He still says, I love getting out of my head. I loved getting out of my head because I didn't like it in my head. Because I didn't like it in my head. I couldn't stand it in there. My sister reminded me the other day when I was 16 years old, I said to her, I hate being clean. I hated just being normal. Drugs and alcohol made me feel normal. So when I take it out of me, I need to replace it with something else, or I am that ticking time bomb, or the Terminator just keeps on catching up with me. So we went through the steps very quickly. He said they're meant to be gone through quickly, and if we study the book, we see there's words and there's more action. We launched into a course of vigorous action. But he said, then a lifetime to practice. And I think that is key for me today. It's not like, yeah, I've done this, yeah, I'm recovered. No, I'm a student. I know very little. I feel like I'm just at the beginning. And that is very exciting. Surround myself with teachers. And it was always recommend, do this, surround yourself with teachers, Young. Become teachable, remain teachable. So we went through the steps and at the end, am I right for time, Purdy? Yeah, 5 minutes, love it, 6 minutes, love it. You know, at the beginning, when he took me through the 12 steps, he said, Young, I'm not taking a sponsee through the work. I'm taking a future sponsor. He said, this is the deal. This is not optional. You know, and he really drummed that home to me. And, I take a lot of people through the work. I'm really blessed to do that. And those guys that are on fire are the guys that are taking people through the work. They're doing service. They're setting up meetings like this beautiful meeting. They're in the mix because it humbles me when I do that. It humbles me. I understand that I'm only a tiny cog in this big wheel. When I'm working with the newcomer, like I was this morning, he reminds me of me, how broken I used to be. I can see that look in his eyes and I think, wow, it just takes me back. I need you guys in my life. I need that connection. I need those newcomers. You guys help me more than I help you. And I'm beyond grateful for that. And so straight away, I got into taking people through the work. And those first 4 guys are still clean and sober, not because of me, because they had willingness and desperation. But I had a massive ego at the time. And I said to my sponsor, I reckon I'm going to be the first sponsor that doesn't have any sponsees relapsing. And he just laughed at me. He laughed at me. But then I got into service And I've always been banging service since that day to this day. You know, it's a pleasure. You know, a master speaks, it's a privilege. I don't take it for granted. Thank you so much. It helps me. Helps me. And hopefully I might help someone. It takes me out of there. I learned I was selfish, self-centered. I learned that was the root of my illness. If I just take drugs and alcohol out of me, all I'm doing is cutting off the top of the root and the rest grows up from it. Fear, self-centeredness, you know, self-pity. I need to get to the causes and conditions. I need to go through this shift in my soul that comes about as the result of these 12 steps and remain in a recovered state through the continual practice of these 12 steps, through staying in the middle of that triangle: unity, service, and recovery. Thank you, acknowledged. My first bit of service, and I always say this, was making tea or coffee in the rooms. And I didn't want to do that because I thought, I ain't doing that for you lot. Also, I wanted to be the last in the meeting and first out. I didn't want this connection. I still felt really spiky. I still felt quite awkward in my own skin. I still felt like, kind of, what am I going to say? You know, I'm so wrapped up in the bondage of myself. What's she thinking about me? How do I sound? What do I look like? The bondage of the self, that's my problem. Or that was my problem. But what it did for me, I was able to ask people questions rather than me just going, blah, blah, blah. What does this mean? I don't know what it means. How do you pray? I just don't know. And people were more than happy to hold out their hand and share their experience with me. And then after a little bit of time, I suddenly started to feel a bit connected to you guys and to this fellowship. I didn't feel an outsider anymore. I didn't feel special and different anymore. I felt a part of. So important, so important. And so today, I'm a good father. I'm able to be a good father. You know, I'm the person I was always meant to be, that I just couldn't seem to be on my own power, because today I have God in my life. I have this peace, this love, this light that I didn't even know I needed. But like it says in the big book, we find the great reality deep down within us. So it's always been in me. Always been in me. I just didn't know. I was just blocked off through drugs, through, you know, drinking, through my resentments, through my anger, through my need to always be right, through this, I was just blocked off. And this whole program is about uncovering, discovering, and discarding. It's just getting rid. This is what happens as we go through this stuff. And it says it's only in the last analysis. It's only there that he, she, it may be found. The last analysis, I understand today. I was always seeking something, some ease and comfort, something, because like I say, insane, there was this part of me that was missing, and I was just searching for the missing part. I didn't know that was happening. I just thought I was going to swear then. I like to get very, very high, let's say. I just thought I just used to like that. No, I was always seeking. But when those things didn't work, when they burnt my life to the ground, it's in the last place that I looked that I found the missing piece of the puzzle, that I found everything I was always looking for. And all I needed was willingness, and to put in a little bit of action, and to just do what I didn't understand, to just take direction. I'll end it on two things. I think in step one, we often refer, you know, the surrender. And I think about a soldier kneeling down, holding a white flag on the side of the road saying, what do I need to do? Waiting for direction. All I need to do is follow this simple course of direction of guys that have done it before, that are holding out their hands and saying, look, let's have it. That's all I needed to do. Put my old ideas aside, get rid of this prejudice against the word God or higher power, because that's what I need, because that's what this program is all about. I'm going to end it on this. Someone sent me this reading this morning, and I felt it was beautiful, because this is a spiritual program. There's not one part of this program that's spiritual. The whole program is spiritual. But I didn't know what that word meant. Spirituality is recognizing and celebrating that we are connected to each other by a power greater than ourselves. And our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. Practicing spirituality brings a sense of perspective, meaning, and purpose to our lives. Any newcomers, I'll put my number in the chat. I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. Thank you so much for letting me share. Thank you.